coverage. We're here with Zach Selby and Trevor Stores. Let's get it on. All right, what's up, everybody? Thank you for spending your evening with me. I know it's been a long, hot day for Zach Selby. Been running around Ashford every single, all hours of the day. Thank you for joining me. If you guys don't know who he is, you definitely should. He's a writer for Commanders.com. Zach, how you doing today, bro?
Let's see. How am I doing? That's a very interesting question. I'm doing exactly how you would expect someone who's going through day 12 of training camp.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm weirdly tan/sunburned, but I'm doing okay.
That's awesome. And honestly, like from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you being here. I know you've had a long day. There was, some surprise news this morning. I've been to training camp twice as a fan, as an observer. It's a long, hot day. So you doing it 12 days in a row, it takes a toll. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you, man.
Yeah, of course.
I'm also here with my boy Trevor Stores. I've known him for a very long time from Ref the District. You guys know him from YouTube and all kinds of stuff like that. Trevor, how you doing today, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm pumped that Zach Selby is right here joining us tonight to talk about some Commander stuff coming up. So I'm good. I'm ready to get into it.
All right, cool, man. So, fellas, what I typically do just to break the ice to kind of get things going is I start off with trivia. Trevor's experienced it a couple of days ago. I picked some specific questions, kind of doing some research today. So, if you guys don't mind, we'll start off with that. Is that cool with you guys?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right, so a lot of these are Zach Selby. They're basically specific. I did a little bit of research on him today, but this one, they're Commander specific too. But so Zach, I did some research. I saw that you started with the team in 2019. Is that correct?
That is very correct. It feels like 10 years ago, but yeah.
All right, so here's the crazy question, right? Actually, I would have got this wrong probably, right? So Zach took over the job in 2019. Who was the starting quarterback week 1 for the Washington Redskins at the time in 2019? Zach, hopefully you know. It's been a long time. It's been a carousel since then, but the floor is yours. Anybody wants to jump in?
Yeah. I absolutely know. I mean, do you have an answer? I mean, I know.
I'm going to go. Is it Alex Smith? Is that who it was?
It's not Alex Smith.
No.
Okay. Exactly right. It was Case Keenum. So
okay,
it was funny. Case Keenum against the Eagles, and he blew up. That was the Terry McLaurin game where he kind of blew up that first week.
Yes.
So it was definitely a big game over there. Okay. All right, cool. This is an easy one. The first one I thought would be a little bit hard, but Zach was all over it. All right, number 2. All right, so they went from Redskins to Commanders, right? In 2020, the first ever Commander touchdown was a reception by a former Virginia Tech star. Who was that? Who was that reception by? I don't want to reveal too much.
I mean, there's only a couple of Virginia Tech guys out there, so
yeah,
Logan Thomas.
Zach's good. Okay. All right, so Logan Thomas. All right, very good. 2 for 2. All right. This is the layup for Zach. So I want to let's have Trevor answer this one first. All right.
All right.
So this state is known for the Grand Ole Opry, the Country Music Hall of Fame, Broadway Street, and the legend Zach Selby. Which state am I referring to?
Wow. I should know this, and I don't.
I've been to all these places, by the way. It's a great
state. Is it Tennessee?
It is Tennessee.
Yeah.
Very good. It's cool. Zach, what part of Tennessee were you born? Like, what city were you born in?
So that is a very interesting question. So I was born in Nashville.
Okay.
Thursday in 1992. That's a little more information that you care to know, but there it is.
Okay.
And I spent the first, the metropolitan area, and then whenever I went to about the middle school area, I went to this place called Fayetteville, Tennessee, which is in the middle of nowhere near Alabama. Went to high school there, played some football there, played offensive line back at another waistline. I went to college at Maryville College, where I played offensive line as well, won a couple of conference championships there with them, and then spent 6 years there, and then ended up here.
There you go. Cool, man. That's awesome. My mother-in-law actually lives in Nashville. It's a beautiful area, beautiful state. So once I saw that you're born and raised there, I had to ask that question right there. So cool. All right. This one's an easy one. You guys will both get this one, right? So one of the running backs, okay, from the Washington Commanders, played football, their college football in Tennessee. Who was that running back? This is a layup. Trevor. Zach knows this one.
Oh, Antonio Gibson.
Antonio Gibson went to Memphis. Very good.
Yeah.
All right, and then last but not least, okay, Zach should hopefully, I don't know if he knows this one, but Trevor, you definitely won't know this one, right? So
Okay.
I know Zach's a big cook, right? Cooking question, okay. What are the primary ingredients used in the dessert meringue? I have no idea. I didn't know. I had to look this up. Do you have any ideas, Zach?
Yeah, it's egg whites and sugar.
Very good. Oh, egg whites and exactly right. Dude, Zach's a savant. Okay, got this all under control. I like that. Very good, man. That's a well-rounded person over here. Cool.
Let's go.
All right, guys, so let's jump into it, man. So we're not here to talk about food. We're here to talk about football. We're jumping in this conversation over here, but it's about halfway through the season. As Zach mentioned, we're in practice 12. Your preseason game coming up. I just kind of want to get the pulse from both of you guys, and Trevor, you can help me out with some questions as well. Zach, so far, what do you think your story? What's the narrative of training camp so far, and what are you looking forward to as the rest of the training camp proceeds?
Well, I think the biggest thing you look at is how the offense is kind of gelling together in this weeks, right? Because you look at you have all these shows, right? You've got Carson Wentz out there that they traded, the draft capital for, and Terry McLaurin. You got another running back in Brian Robinson. Curtis is coming in and out of practice. 2 days on, 1 day off, sort of seems to be his MO. You've got another nice new tight end in Colt Turner. Like you've got all these nice weapons that in theory should lead to a much better performance than they had last year when they were around middle of the league, maybe a little bit below average. And it seems like the first couple practices it was a little inconsistent. I guess you could say there were flashes of what Carson Wentz has the arm strength. He has the the veteran experience. He has like the savvy about him. But you also see the inconsistencies. You see some mistakes here and there. You see the pluses and the minuses that he has. But I think this past practice showed. I think there was a little bit of a corner turning here, especially today. I think really nice stuff that Carson had. I mean, he was 60 for 6 and 7 on 7. Take that for what it is, but it's still pretty impressive considering what he's been able to do. In the previous couple of weeks. The running backs were finding a lot of open holes. The offense definitely won the day, absolutely. When the defense, regularly has been, pretty much all over it. So I think that's what I've been seeing so far. And then what I'm looking forward to seeing now, heading into the preseason, is now the defense has a pretty good beat on what the offense is doing. The offense is trying to get the momentum. How is it going to look against another opponent? How is that going to look with Terry trying to mix his chemistry in with Carson again? Some of these other, pairs, defensive backs, whether the starters are going to be backups out there, whoever they're going to play. So I think if we can see positive growth throughout the process, I think we'll go into week 1 against the Jacksonville Jaguars feeling pretty good about where they're at.
Okay. So you're feeling pretty optimistic, right? You're kind of feeling that, there's been a lot of controversy, or not controversy, but critiques on Carson Wentz with his inaccuracies, but you think it's more of a growing process and you think eventually it'll come to fruition, in your opinion?
Yeah. I think the thing you have to realize is that offenses generally take a little bit longer to develop than defenses do, and get their sync down and things like that. It's a lot of reactionary defense. Offense, there's a lot of moving pieces in terms of the opposite line, running backs. The quarterback has to see everything correctly. And remember, Carson Wentz this is his first time in this system. I mean, he's a veteran. He knows how to approach being in a new system, but it's still a new system. And Taylor Heinicke was saying this is a robust system. Takes a little bit of time to get to know things. And it seemed, like I said, again, it seemed like he's kind of getting into the groove of things. But you can understand why the growing pains were there.
So to follow up on this offense, I follow you on Twitter, obviously, but you've been saying a lot of Dax Milne lately in your tweets.
I've seen that.
I've seen a lot of highlights from him and a couple of other beat reporters saying the same thing. What's the wide receiving room looking like? Are we keeping 7? I see Alex Erickson as punt returner too. Like he's kind of a wide receiver as well. Like, what's the real shot for Dax to make the team, as well as Kelvin Harmon? Because I hear their names a little bit more than I hear Cam Sims, who's a quote-unquote veteran of the team. So what's that looking like?
Well, I would say if I had to guess, I think that there are pretty much 5, in my opinion, locks on the roster. You got Terry, obviously, duh.
Mm-hmm.
You got Curtis Samuel, duh. You have Jahan Dotson, of course. De'Ami Brown. Cam, I think, is definitely a lock. I think, the thing about Cam is like he's a very quiet guy, but he does his job, and I think that's something the coaching staff really enjoys. So that leaves – last year they had 7 spots, if you remember. And they kept DeAndre Carter and Dax Milne. So I think 7 is a possibility. I think the only thing that's really going to stop is maybe they want to put some depth in some other spots at like tight end or defensive line where they're kind of a little bit lower, only waiting for Logan Thomas and Chase Young to come back off the PUP list. But I think, maybe say Logan Thomas comes off the PUP list earlier than expected or, whatever happens with that. I think maybe you could possibly keep 7 receivers. I think even if Logan Thomas doesn't get back, I think you could keep 7 receivers because this receiver group is just as talented as it was last year. And I think Dax has gotten even because I like Dax. I've liked Dax.
I do too.
Yeah, he did.
Day one.
Yeah, he was my late sneak into the roster guy last year. Proved this year. I think honestly he hasn't had a bad day. I think he's done exactly what everyone asked him to do. So I do think that you could keep 7. The only thing, like I said again, would be the needs at other spots.
And then to follow up on that, so obviously I like Dax Milne as well, but there seems to be like competition at the punt returner and the kick returner positions as well. Do you think that's going to factor in? Do you think they'll keep like a specialist at that position, or do you think Dax Milne's going to get the head start? I guess like you're there every day. I know Jahan Dotson's been getting some of the reps, but like if you were to
and they brought in that Matt Cole today too.
And that Matt Cole today too. Yeah. So do you have any beats or any kind of intuition on how you feel to take over that position there, punt return or kick return?
Well, I think the specialists, like that role will play a factor in the receivers they end up keeping. I think, I think there's 3 right now in the unofficial depth chart, so take that with a massive hunk of salt. So just take it for what it is. But it does have Alex Harrison as both the starting punt returner and kick returner. And then you've got Dax Milne, as the backup, there. I think it's going to come down between one of those two in terms of like who's going to be the return specialist. I think, they both bring a lot of really good things. Like Alex has some veteran experience. He's been around for a long time. He's kind of like Cam Sims. He kind of quietly does his job, but he's very efficient at it. Then you also got Dax, like we said, who is, just coming on every day. So I think it's going to come down between one of those two. And really, like, it might depend on how they do it in the preseason. Like if one of them comes down against the other, and one of them has a better day, say if Dax continues this against, the Cardinals and the Chiefs, the Panthers, the Chiefs and the Ravens, then maybe he's got an edge. But again, you can't count out Alex Erickson's veteran experience either. So in my opinion, it's those two. Two.
Is he out there running routes? I feel like I never hear about Alex Harrison making big catches or anything. I hear about Markin Mitchell and people like that, but is he out there? I guess he is, right?
It goes back to being a guy who just quietly does his job. Like, you don't hear too much about Cam Sims, but that's just because Cam Sims, he does exactly what he's supposed to do. He takes his catches, he makes a couple of nice ones here and there, and he's a really willing blocker. He's a good special teams player. And that's something the coaches like, right? They want to have guys that just do their job, the lunch pail cliche kind of guys.
Exactly.
We'll transition to defense for me personally. I saw today Jeremy Reeves got an interception. It was like the first one in a few days for the defense, but before that they were flying around, ball hawking, doing great. Is that more on the offense, or is that actually progress on the defensive side that Jack Del Rio has shown this offseason?
The classic training camp question.
I know, right?
Epic battle between the two.
You got to.
So I'm not going to ride the fence here, but I am going to tell you that just keep in mind what I said earlier about the offense. But I do think the defense is looking really good, especially in the secondary. I think the starting corners have looked about as advertised as you can expect. Kendall Fuller, I mean, what
I
else?
love hearing that.
Yeah, me too.
He had a career high in pass breakups last year. I think he was like top 10 in cornerbacks last year. Breakups. And then you've also got William Jackson, who he took some time to learn from, going from primarily man scheme in Cincinnati over to a zone concept in Washington. And it seems like he's feeling a lot more comfortable. In fact, he said he's 1,000% more comfortable.
That's good to hear.
He was, yeah. And then you've got the safeties, who I think are one of the better safety groups in the league, honestly, because you have Cam Girl, I think a really underappreciated guy. I think I got Bobby McCain, who again another wide guy who led the league, not led the league, but led the team in interceptions last year. Yeah. 2 against the Giants in Week 18, and then you got Jeremy Reeves, another guy that survived 3 coaching regimes and somehow just impressed the team. And I think Percy Butler is also really going to come on too. Another guy who just he doesn't flash too much, but when he does, it's like in a very big way, which I like. Nice. I like that a lot.
Nice.
I guess another question. So speaking with defense, right? So obviously it was a shakeup today with Coach defensive line coach Sam Mills. Was that surprising to you? Like I've heard some murmurs from like other beat writers talking about maybe a disconnect in the locker room. But do you think that was something that was expected? Do you think what do you expect moving forward? Do you think there's going to be continuity within the team, or how do you feel about just touch on Sam Mills and his release today, please?
Yeah, I mean, so the way it's set up is that we have a media tent out there, and I was kind of in the back, and sometimes you can hit we're near airports, the airplanes kind of flutter, and I was trying to listen because I heard Sean say, oh hey, we've got Trevor would like to open with some remarks, and I heard him say something. I was like, wait a minute, let me I had to move up a couple of rows to hear what he had to say, and I was like, oh okay, I was not expecting that at all. It kind of really. I had a whole content plan. I had one every week. I had one specifically for each day. That threw off everything. So I had to I had to write a new story about how sometimes I forget how to pronounce his name against.
I know, right? It's hard.
Zagina.
There we go.
Okay.
So I think it was a shocker. I don't know too much about what may or may not have went in the locker room. That's a pretty sacred place for every NFL team, so I'm not going to try to divulge too much into that because I'm not a part of that fraternity, and obviously we're all we're all where we're at for a reason, and I was not one of those people who went to the NFL. So I think in terms of what Coach Z, as they call him on the team, they can bring. I think he's a very serious guy. I think he's got almost 2 decades of experience in the NFL. And I think they really do respect the fact that he's been around, he knows how to play. He knows he's been with 7 different teams, including the Rams, who won a Super Bowl. So I think he's going to be very interesting. I think he's going to bring a lot of energy. I think that doesn't change. I think and one thing I did appreciate about what he said is that my goal is to help these men get to a championship. That's his only focus.
Yeah.
Very down to business for a defensive line coach. So I'm very excited to see what he brings in his new role to the team.
So Zach, how did the Commanders go about bringing in Warren Sapp as a motivational / advisor / coach? How did that come about? And why did he pick the Commanders?
Honestly, I'm not really entirely sure. You'd have to ask Coach Rivera about that. But I do know that they wanted to have him around. They wanted it because why not? He's a Hall of Fame player, and he's one of the most dominant defensive tackles the league has ever seen. So why not bring him in and try to teach some of these young guys some really talented stuff?
And I don't know the whole backtracking, Trevor, but from what I understand, him and Coach Z have some history as well, and him and Martin Mayhew have some history as well. So I think there's some friendship there. I don't think there's a conspiracy. I know on Twitter, Warren Sapp's going to take over coaching or anything like that. I don't think it's like that. I think this is well planned in advance for him to be here and observing OTAs.
It was. Yeah. Rivera said as much after the news was announced. Yes, that was planned in OTAs.
Exactly. So I don't think there's any really rumors there, but it is interesting. So did you get a chance to see Warren Sapp today? I was kind of curious what was going on. Was he more motivational? Was he more hands-on with the drills, or what was going on with that?
I did not get a chance to see him because the way the field is set up, so we have the main offensive field and then we have the defensive field where they're doing individual drills with the other unit. So it's kind of hard for us to get over there. But I mean, I did talk to him whenever he was here for OTAs, and he seems very positive about the group. I think he said, this is a supremely talented group. I think he said like they've got a lot of potential. I mean, why not when you got 4 first-round picks, right?
Exactly.
I think, if you pretty much take whatever he said in the OTAs and just carry that over into training camp, I think it'd probably be the same.
Makes sense. Yeah.
So Amari Rodgers, tight end, rookie tight end.
Yeah, you love Amari Rodgers. Zach brings him up.
Yeah. So does he have a legit shot of making this 53?
It depends. It depends on what's going to happen with Logan Thomas. I think that's really what everyone is waiting on, right? If Logan Thomas stays on the PUP list till the season starts, that comes up the possibility of another spot on the active roster. And I think, it's possible. I mean, you can't argue with it. I mean, he made a touchdown today. He's had some really, really nice catches, especially yesterday. I think he has a shot if Logan Thomas, is still on the PUP list. We're still kind of waiting on that.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
I gotcha. A question that I keep hearing, and I'm sure you get bugged a lot too, Zach, about is the whole rotation on offense with the running backs between Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. Do you think there's what's the rep breakdown that you're observing in training camp? And do you think there's any real threat with Antonio Gibson as RB1?
Close your eyes and tell me what you see. If it's nothing, that's the percentage chance of how much Antonio Gibson.
I love it. Okay.
I like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no. So I think, look, here's the thing. We all know what Brian Robinson brings to the table. We all know what J.D. McKissic brings to the table. Tony Gibson brings something else to the table too. That there is very much a by committee system, and they are very, very excited about what Antonio Gibson can bring to the offense. He was 1,000-yard rusher last year, and as far as I think he looks better than he did last year. He really does. He looks quicker. He looks like he's more confident. I mean, I think he's still, kind of new to the position. I think he's finally starting to get more comfortable. I think that's really what you like. And I think really having Brian Robinson is going to help Antonio Gibson thrive more because now you're able to get him out of space. Now you're able to have him focus on, okay, you can go attack outside the tackles. And if we really need to go get 2 yards, just go talk to Brian Robinson and let him go get it. I would say, in fairness to Brian Robinson, he has shown that he can be more than that. He can definitely be, that pass catcher out of the backfield. He can definitely be someone who uses his speed a little bit outside. So if they need him in that spot, go ahead, let him have a shot. But I think it's very clear how this pecking order is going to go. Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic, I would probably call them 1 and 1A, just because I think J.D. McKissic brings something uniquely different. In fact, he's one of the best pass catching running backs over the past couple of years, ever since he joined Washington. So it's kind of hard to call him a backup necessarily. I think Brian Robinson is right under there.
Coming up for Saturday's preseason games, do you have any inkling on how much the stars will play, if any will play, or how many we're looking to see take some action on Saturday?
Well, we do know that Carson is definitely going to play. We know that because Rivera has said as much that he's probably definitely going to play. That would insinuate that the starting offense is going to play. Now, in terms of how long that's going to be, I would probably say not much. If I'm trying to remember how much Fitzpatrick played in the preseason last year.
I feel like not much at all, right? I feel like barely any, if I remember correctly.
I would say that first game against the Patriots, I believe it was. Yeah. He only played for 2 or 3 series. And then that was it. So I would probably say that we'll see about that much from Carson in the starting offense. And the defense too, for that matter. I would probably say if we consider the second preseason game like more of the the dress rehearsal that the third preseason game was.
Yeah, everything's changed now.
Yeah, I would say if we're gonna go on some basic cliches, maybe like a quarter for the starters. But I think they're definitely not going to play that much at all during the third preseason game. If the Ravens want to have that game to go, however much.
Yeah, the Ravens go hard in the preseason.
Yeah,
what happens there.
Go ahead and do that. That's probably not the way we'll take that.
It's not washed away. Is there any particular group that you're looking for, like an underrated player that you're rooting for, or somebody, any surprises?
in camp?
Any surprises? I mean, I think for me personally, I feel like there's been a lot of like very expected stuff. I would say that Colt Turner has been pretty legit. I think that was a little bit of a surprise. Because you hear a lot of the stuff that Rivera said, we're really, really excited about him. We think he's really going to bring a lot. And it's like, okay, that's great. I think that's really unique that he said it specifically about a player, but I think, we have to wait and see. But training camp has shown this guy he's real. I think he's very legit. And I'm hoping to see him back sometime soon. I'm pretty sure that hamstring injury is pretty just cautionary. I don't think there's too much going on with that. They just want to make sure he's ready for the for the season to start. Let's see. In terms of other surprises and guys I'm rooting for, I think Mark and Michelle. I think he's made a couple, really good catches here and there. Had a really good time at FedEx Field. I think that was really. I think he really needed that because he made a lot of really big plays during OTAs. So we'll see where we go with that. But I think I'll always root for Jared Patterson. I think Jared Patterson
Patterson.
Has a great story. I think he plays hard, runs hard. I think he's got a really good mentality about things. Obviously, things are a little bit stacked against him. With having a pretty much set 3 running back on top of the depth chart there. But, I do wish the best for him. I think if he depends on what he does with special teams, I think he could have a shot maybe.
And Zach, quick question from the listeners right now. I know you're not a doctor, but do you have any predictions, your own personal beliefs of Colt Turner will play in Week 1?
I mean, I would say probably. I don't think like from what we've heard from her, it doesn't look like it's too massively serious. I mean, I think Link Rivera would at least tell us because he's been pretty open about some of those things. Recently he has been. So we'll see. I think I'd put it pretty high. I think it would be pretty crazy to think that he would play.
Okay.
Sticking with tight ends, I saw John Bates made a return back for individual or team drills. One of those drills. Let's just say Logan Thomas was healthy. Would we run 3 tight ends active on game day with Logan, John, and Cole, or would one of those, John or Cole, get the, how does that work out?
The interesting thing here is with this 3, they have a pretty much clear 3 tight end like rotation now. They have all run guys, they have the blocker in John Bates, and they have the pass catcher in Colt Turner. So I think if we did happen to see tight ends on the same field at the same time, I would guess that you'd have Logan and Bates attached, and then you have probably Colt Turner out as slot guy because that's his background as a plus I think that really like sets him up for success. So I think that's really the only case, and maybe that's a possibility. I don't think we'll see that during the preseason because if that's the case,
I save it for the
pretty strong. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to show that to any team that's looking at film or anything like that.
And Zach, I got one more question because I know we promised around 30 minutes. So for Darian Mathis, we really haven't heard much about him. What's going on in like practice? Is it hard to observe a run stopper in practice? Is that pretty much what it is? Or I haven't heard much about him.
Well, here's the thing is, and this is kind of the case with like both the Alabama draft picks or any Alabama guys, like they're very physical players. It's hard to be physical when you're in just shoulder pads or shells, and, especially like with defensive tackle, especially like sort of like he's not a nose guard because that's not the way that the Washington plays, but like he's supposed to clog up the middle in the same sort of similar way that a shade or like some of those straight up nose guards will play, and I think he will do a good job of that. I think I think with the pass coming on, he's kind of shown that a little bit more. I think we really won't get a true sense of how good he is at that until the games are for real. Maybe in the preseason when you have a chance to see him going up against somebody else. But it's hard to kind of simulate that physicality and like that job when everything is kind of, yes, it's more physical with pads are on, but it's still up to a point, right? Like you can't take people to the ground. You can't, go a full 110%.
And I guess very last question. Sorry about that. The narrative is that basically like there's going to be play 2 linebackers and they're going to have, Cole Holcomb and Jamin Davis and things like that. Do you think that's truly what's going to transpire as the year goes on? Like, Quan Smith became a free agent, is demanding a trade.
We just signed Nathan Gary from the Eagles.
Nathan Gary. There's some there's some stuff going on. Do you think we're going to stick with a 5-2 during the season, or do you believe the coaches, or what do you think about that?
Well, here's the thing: is if you look at the unofficial depth chart again, take it with a massive grain of salt. But if you look at it, it has middle linebacker, outside linebacker, and 3 corner spots. So
I saw
that would say they're probably going to run with 2 linebackers for most of the time. That's what they've been doing a lot. They've run, they've had Jamin, they've had Holcomb and David May on the field at the same time every now and again. But for the most part, it's been 2 linebackers, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Wow. Cool. All right, Zach, I appreciate it, man. Been a long day for you. I know you've been running around. Thank you for your time. Before we log off, where can people find you on social media? What are some projects you're working on? Is there anything you want to plug for the listeners?
Yeah. So you can check out all my content at commanders.com. You can also look at me on Twitter at Zach Selby WC. And you can also check me out on Instagram, where you can find mostly just baking stuff. But if you want to check out some really sweet food, you can go do that at Zach T. Selby. In terms of projects I'm working on, technically I've already finished it, but there's going to be a massive deep dive coming pretty soon into Carson Wentz's history before he joined the NFL.
That's awesome.
Going back to the state, yeah. So we get to see the because we know all this stuff already. What he did with the Eagles, with the Colts. I thought some fans already know that history. But Washington fans don't necessarily know too much about what he did. He was actually, one of the best quarterbacks, at the Division I
number 2 overall selection. Yeah,
exactly. So be on the lookout for that. Probably maybe not even probably next month, honestly. But it's a.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for that, Zach. Appreciate that. And Trevor, how about you, man? Where can I find you on Twitter? Where can I find you socials? And what are you working on?
Twitter my series popped up. Hold on a second. Okay, all right. I'm on Twitter at Trev HTTC, Instagram Trev __ stores. Graph the District podcast, full press coverage, football garbage time podcast. I'm all over the place, giving my 2 cents and bringing all smoke necessary. So. Yeah,
that's awesome.
I'm everywhere.
Guys, you know me. I'm George Carmi at GCarmi21. You can find me at Full Press Coverage. Follow this podcast at Full Press Commanders on YouTube. I definitely would appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you for everything. Have a great night. See you guys later. Peace.
Thank you, Zach.